Welcome back to the Kick and Post YouTube channel and podcast with your hosts Jamal Thompson and Chris Perry, and the season is upon us. We're fresh out of a Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back champs. We're leaning into our off-season content
Yes,
now,
sir.
and we're back with our player profile coverage, starting off with a very, I'd say controversial based on what side of the coin you land on with this prospect, Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm good. First one of many, so excited as well. But let's just hop straight into it,
Yes.
man.
So Keon Coleman, 6'4" prospect, I think 216. 1 year in the Florida State offense, played 3 years, is a Michigan State transfer. One thing that has always been tied to this prospect is how athletic he is. Played both sports, both football and basketball at a high level. Was a dual sport recruit for the Michigan State Spartans. Things, I guess, didn't work out. Maybe it was the offense or not. Decided to make a change, go down to Florida State for this year. And after 1 year down there, declared for the NFL draft. Anything you'd like to add?
No, pretty accurate so far. So,
Yeah, twitchy athlete, did punt returning, especially at Florida State. Took a huge role in the punt return aspect of things. Played opposite to a 6'7" receiver that will also cover Johnny Wilson. And a very lethal run game out there for Florida State. Pros to this prospect. What I've seen is a very strong receiver off the line. I think this man does a good job of playing with his hands coming off the line of scrimmage. Doesn't get bullied necessarily. Again, crazy fast twitch athlete, so gets into his position well. I won't call him a polished product when it comes to route running at all, but what I will say is he is a go-getter when it comes to the ball being in the air. Difficult catches. He is great at high degree difficult catches. Whether it's one hand up above his head, behind his back. I've seen him make some crazy plays for Florida State. The big negative, though, you'll see is there's not much production to talk about at any of the stops, really. I don't know if he had a 1,000-yard receiving season, but in the most important season, from a prospect's perspective, his last season, did not cross over 650 yards necessarily. Wasn't it 648 or was it 653?
it was 658.
Ooh, okay.
So,
So
a little bit.
barely crossed over 650, 11 touchdowns, with 3 of those coming against LSU, and we know what that defense was looking like. So there's questions to be asked about production. I have my own take on that, but I'll let Chris, give some of what he sees on this prospect before I get into that.
Okay, I just want to frame this in the best way possible. Don't take what I'm about to say literally. Just think about it for a
I
second.
mean, they're going
Okay?
to.
They're going to, but just take a second.
All right.
We remember a guy last year that we fell in love with because of like size, athleticism, the world. Not us, but the world.
Okay.
I could see it a little bit, but of course more context. But his game does remind me of Quentin Johnston last year in terms of athleticism, in terms of explosiveness, in terms of winning 50-50 balls, but also in terms of lack of production, in terms of going ghost, in terms of where is he on the stat sheet. Those are all the same, but this case is different because both projects need work. Both of them need to fine tune the little things. I knew, and you knew them all. Quentin Johnson wasn't figuring that out in a year. He might not figure it out in 2. He could figure it out in 3 or 4. Keon Coleman can figure it out in a year. He's probably going to figure out year 2, and he's going to be pretty good year 3. I'm pretty confident that he's going to develop because his only knock is his routes. Like, he doesn't run the best of routes. He doesn't get a lot of separation. But that has fine-tuned his catching and made it a lot better. So those 50-50 balls, he wins majority of the times. The balls where he does have to box out a defender, where his basketball background comes into play, that works. That's his game. The issue is going to the next level and having that translate doesn't always do that. So you are going to have to expand your game. You're going to have to get your routes down. He looks like he could be a player where that doesn't matter. We've seen that in rare occasions where pure athleticism and pure grown man, like, those out there know what I'm saying. Yeah, grown man-ism. That's a thing. I've seen it before, and
Yeah.
he's young, so we
100%.
could get there.
Yeah.
But for me to bet on it year 1, highly doubt it. It's going to be very contingent on his landing spot, on the environment, on his quarterback. So I do have a lot of faith. His athleticism, his 50-50 is what gives it to me, icing on the cake. But that downside is the lack of separation and the lack of routes that he can actually run. And it's like, we got to pray he gets to the right situation, and we'll see from there. So That's it.
I mean, not to make excuses for the kid at all, but he kind of put himself in a bad position offense wise. This FSU offense was seen to be potentially a very high flying offense. What it reverted back to in a lot of difficult games is we have the 6'7" guy. Let's throw it up to him,
Yes.
which we'll talk about him later. But they had the 6'7" guy. Let's throw it up to him, and they had a trio of running backs that they're willing to lean on to kind of help support a good quarterback, good college quarterback in Jordan Travis, but in my humble opinion, not an NFL level quarterback. He's not making any NFL level throws. So a lot of these games where he goes ghost, they're trying to win games. They're not trying to build Keon Coleman's portfolio. So yeah, he
Exactly.
went ghost, but it's not like a Quentin Johnston type situation where he's in the Big 12, all the defenses are porous, and we're wondering how does he go missing against Sam Houston State, right?
Right.
where we're
Right.
we're questioning a guy who went absent against Duke, but Duke was putting that work in against FSU. It's a different matchup. You kind of got to rot back on what you know, and what they rot back on was the run. Um, if you look at their game against, I think Notre Dame as well this year, they might have played Notre Dame. They played, I think they played Notre Dame. He also had a rough go at things again because they're trying to win tough games. Um, I think if he lands in the right situation year one, you could see some of the reasons I think he has the potential to be, at least coming out the gate, a very good supporting wide receiver too.
Yeah.
I don't see him necessarily being a one in any situation yet.
Not yet.
It's going to take a little bit of mustering his skills and stuff, but I think there's a couple locations for sure where if all the cards break right and everything stays the same, he could have a very successful rookie campaign.
Yeah, I agree. What spots do you have for him?
Starting with, I know I was supposed to only give one, but the
Oh.
more I've thought about it, it's like, there's a few
No,
landing spots, and they're all
I'm
in the
glad you
back end,
said
and it
that.
kind of lines up perfectly, right? You look at the Buffalo Bills. If they keep Stephon Diggs,
Yeah, yeah.
looks like Gabe's leaving. If they keep Stephon Diggs, the Bills line up Stephon Diggs on one side and Keon Coleman on the next. I think that is a good successive story. We've seen Gabriel Davis, fresh out of UCF, shouts out Gabe, um, succeed in that secondary role, right?
Yeah, we have.
And they looks like, for all intents and purposes, he posted a video, like a goodbye video to Buffalo, showing the stats and pretty much a recruiting video for himself for the next team that wants to sign him. And he had pretty impressive stats lined up next to Stephon Diggs. I could see Keon, who I think is a better athlete than Gabe, step into that role and immediately flourish. Um, I think Arizona is an interesting landing spot if they go with MHJ at 3 and they want to double down and really set that offense on fire. Let Hollywood Brown walk. You could go MHJ, Keon Coleman, Trey McBride as your three-headed pass receivers, and let Kyler go out there and run around and dish. Could be a fun spot for fantasy as well. Would definitely hurt MHJ a little bit production-wise if he was to land there. But in terms of actual football and offensive consistency, I see the Arizona Cardinals being a fun team for him to land. And obviously the Dallas Cowboys as well. CD on one side, him on the other. I feel like those would be great year one landing spots. What do you think?
I'm glad you listed multiple because I also listed multiple after telling you to pick one. And he does have the benefit of the doubt because of his lack of production. He's going to be a late first round talent and it's going to be surrounded by contenders. So if he goes to Dallas, he's set. If he goes to Buffalo, he's set. And Kansas City Chiefs also have a pick.
Oh, God. Obviously.
Obviously.
I wanted to leave them out
You
because
can't.
it's
You can't.
necessary, but
You can't. Like,
it's Patrick Mahomes needs that guy,
yeah.
and every receiver they've gone for has been the smaller build, the utility build of wide receiver, and they haven't gone for a traditional wide receiver one. And 6'4", 216 with what Patrick Mahomes can do ball placement wise and accuracy wise, and just
Yeah.
that man could throw that thing,
What?
man.
I mean, I hate to say it, but Kansas City is perfect just because they scheme certain players open, not in terms of skill, but in terms of what the defense gives. I've seen them scheme
Yeah,
Justin Watson open, be wide open, and it's like,
yeah,
imagine if Keon
God,
gets that wide open on that offense. Yeah,
yeah.
he's set. So he's in a good spot,
Him and Rasheed Rice,
bro. Yeah,
young, early contracts, you could really set something up with already a very heavy contract in Patrick Mahomes's to build an offense around young receivers that have the potential to kind of go crazy. I wasn't the biggest Rasheed Rice believer,
no,
but again, he landed in the perfect spot to utilize those talents and get fed very reasonable balls in great situations. So you put Keon Coleman next to him, that could open up the offense for both those guys, and maybe a little renaissance for Travis Kelsey this
Yeah.
year on the
Yeah.
fantasy
Let's
side
let's
of
stop talking
things.
about that. I'm about to start crying, dog. Please.
I know, frustrating, frustrating. Worst landing spots though, and I only have about maybe one or two.
Okay.
Obviously, it's almost the norm to say New England is a horrible landing spot for wide receivers, but currently we don't know what is out there, who's going to be the quarterback, what the offense is going to look like. What I will bounce back with is it's not going to be the same Bill Belichick offense or the Bill Belichick New England Patriots. So we do have to dial that back a bit and see what they turn into. But I wouldn't necessarily want to put them in that offense necessarily. Um, and I mean, every receiver, every team essentially with quarterback issues. You want somebody who, the teams we listed as good landing spots have those guys who could run an offense. The Dax, the Josh Allen's, the Patrick Mahomes's, the and like it or not, Kyler Murray does run a competent offense, right?
He does. No,
Um,
he does. He's always does. People
yeah,
just hate.
yeah, he always has, right? So, um, but you look at New England and there's just too many question marks. If it's Bailey Zappi, if it's Mac, or if it's rookie Drake May, you
Okay.
don't know what's necessarily out there. Um, the Pittsburgh Steelers, unfortunately, even though they're really good at developing their wide receivers,
Nothing. No, you
lose
got it
their
right.
quarterback.
Nothing. Neither of those. You don't want to talk about them either. I wish he goes there.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I mean, but from a development wise and a development standpoint, their record speaks for
that's
themselves.
true.
Like they've turned a lot of wide receivers or gotten or
Yeah.
correctly drafted a lot of wide receivers and
No,
got the best out of
I'm
them.
hating right now. They have a
So
Hall of Fame lineup from Heinz Ward to literally any. You could name anyone in the last 5 years. They always have a Hall of
you
Famer.
could go
So
down the
yeah, I'll give
list.
him that.
Everybody
Take
there
it.
has either flourished into someone or shown some flash of talent in that wide receiver room.
That's true.
So,
So
like it or not, but again, in terms of just immediate production, it might be a little bit tricky because the one thing they had was consistency at quarterback. Now it's unless you're like an athletic freak like George Pickens, it's tough to get production from those wide receivers if you don't know who's throwing the ball. So, but yeah, those are my two worst landing spots. I'd say Pittsburgh and New England.
okay.
What says you?
My only worst landing spot is New England, and I know I sound like a casual, but hear me out. The only reason people played in New England anyway because it was the brand, it was the tag, it was the ships. Those don't exist anymore. A new era is upon us, and we don't know what that new era is going to be. History shows that Rome wasn't built in a day, so it's gonna be trash for a couple years. It's been trash for a couple years. They should have did this when Brady first left. They're behind the eight ball, so it's just a part of the process. Don't shoot the messenger. Wish you the best of luck in 2035. So
2035. Crazy. Nah, man. Um, at minimum for the guy, I hope he goes first round. I don't see anything less than a first round grade on him. I think
yeah,
the interesting thing is to watch the combine happen and see what he runs 40 time wise. Unfortunately, that is a big deciding factor in where he goes. And for somebody who's not the best route runner,
it's your time to shine,
he
brother.
needs to show out at the
Yeah,
combine.
that's your day.
He needs to show out at the combine.
Uh,
I had a projected like 4.53, roughly 40 for him.
Okay.
I'm hoping he blazes past that.
Yeah, if
For
if
his
he runs
sake,
over
'cause-
4.5, I think he might be early second because you're gonna use that as a knock for value. If he runs under 4.5, he's a lock for the first. There's
yeah,
no
if he
way.
goes like 4.4s and
Yeah,
got
even a
shoot, if he's able to
4.49,
like 4.32 it or
uh,
4.33 it, I don't see that type of
he ain't
speed
getting that.
in
He ain't
him.
getting that. But if he does, off the
But
board, top 15.
I think he'll kill the vertical jump though. He'll kill the vertical jump and probably the broad jump as well.
Yeah.
He's that type of athlete, but just straight line speed, I'm not sure if he's gonna give him that 4.3 or 4.
Well,
Low
it depends what he's
4.4s.
doing right
I'm
now.
feeling a
He got the
4.5.
athleticism. 40 is just technique, brother. That's it. If he can get the technique down,
Yeah,
he's straight chilling. He got a bag on the way.
I don't know if he ran track.
His build is he
Maybe
has a long build
he
though.
looks like a track
Yeah,
athlete. Yeah,
so
he
we
looks
gonna
like a
see.
track
I'm
athlete.
actually really excited for this underwear Olympics just because lives
Yeah,
can
for
be changed.
real.
Lives can be changed. Like there's a lot of positions that
I
can
mean,
switch in terms of draft order. So
we could go back to that Amon-Ra St. Brown draft combine,
yeah,
and so much changed in that draft combine just based on that 40-yard dash, right? But
live,
for
live
sure,
and learn.
and it'll be interesting times in the offseason with the NFL draft combine. Any more takes on the FSU product. Well, let's not give all the credit to FSU. The
Uh,
Michigan State FSU product,
nah.
Keon
So I
Coleman.
need to say his tape speaks for himself, and
Yeah.
I believe.
Don't
I
look too
believe.
closely into the
Don't look too
stats
close into the stats. Not on this one.
because he was not. It was not the only guy out there. There was a lot. There are a lot of factors. This one, I'm willing to make excuses for him,
Exactly.
but don't look too closely at the stats. Look at the film.
Thank you. That's all we gotta say.
Yes, yes. And barring any huge updates or changes, we'll be hopping into another crazy athlete,
Oh, the other grown man.
crazy prospect.
The
Huh?
other grown man that we wanted to talk about. That some are saying could be the best receiver in this entire class.
Correct, correct.
It's a debate. It's a
Um,
debate. I'm ready.
and I think it is. I mean, you were the guy who wanted to debate Gibbs and Bijan.
And was I wrong though?
Bada bop boom pow.
Was
I
I
don't
wrong
think you were
though?
too wrong, but
Exactly.
the jury's still out.
The
Man.
jury's not out.
still
As
out.
of today, Gibbs is above Bijan. Today. I'm not saying as a career is gonna end like
As
that.
of today.
But today.
As of today. Yeah, so when it comes to debates and, swaying to not necessarily the norm,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see your take on this next prospect, Malik Neighbors out of LSU.
Yes, sir. Watching the tape today
hope
too.
you guys are excited.
I'm excited. Shit, me.
To see that one, because I'm excited to cover that one as well. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoy these player profiles. We'll be dropping a lot of these over the offseason, covering all the best prospects and some of the hidden gems as well for your guys' viewing pleasure. But without further ado, thank y'all for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.